Hi everyone, Sky123 here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Paradox Planet. The fifth series of Fourth Doctor adventures began in January with Wave of Destruction and then continued in February with the Labyrinth of Buddha Castle, and now we come to the third instalment of the series, The Paradox Planet by Jonathan Morris. It is a two-part story in that it's spread over two releases. There are two parts on this disc, so technically four-part story, my mistake, but yeah, basically this release is spread over two discs. This one is The Paradox Planet out in March, and the next one is Legacy of Death, which will be out in April. So we've got that to look forward to now. So this review is going to be slightly different from what I normally do, in that I haven't listened to the whole story technically yet, but I have listened to the whole of this release, The Paradox Planet. So then, on to some details now. This is the first series with Lala Ward and Tom Baker. We did get some other Big Finish releases in the novel adaptations. They were the Romance of Crime, The English Way of Death, and The Well-Mannered War, and they were all four-part stories spread over two discs in one release. So now we have them in the Fourth Doctor Adventures format of normally two-part stories in one disc release, and sometimes four-part stories spread over two different releases, such as this one. So enough of those little details, which I'm sure most of you are aware of anyway. Let's take a look at how this is presented, and you have the front of the disc here, CD case here. Standard stuff really, a very nice cover there with the Fourth Doctor and Romana. K9 is not shown on the cover, but he is in the story, and you can see down there you've got with John Leeson as K9. And then you have some birds flying off here, you have some nice trees in the background, and you also have a time tank and some soldiers dotted around that. There is your spine, 5.3, as you can see. If I put it on the back now, mine has got a little bit of a crack there in the casing, but I don't really mind. There you've got Paradox Planet, written by Jonathan Morris, directed by Nicholas Briggs, and Jonathan Morris is also writing Legacy of Death. Whilst travelling in the vortex, blah 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 blah, that's your blurb. And there's a quite big cast there, and I assume this has something to do with the fact that because it is spread over two different releases, they can sort of like record them together and then have an even bigger cast going on there than they usually can get, because usually with these one disc releases it is a bit of a smaller cast, but here they've upped it a bit, so maybe they sort of like recorded all the scenes with one group of actors on one day and then the other group another day, rather than recording one story, one release rather than the other release. I don't know, we'll have to, maybe there is some details on that, but anyway, there is your one disc right there, taking it off, and there's what you have behind the disc. You have Wave of Destruction advertised, those three novel adaptations I said about, and also the novel adaptations in the special edition release format. Taking out the booklet now, we have, if I can get it out, that is the reverse cover here with the different logo on there. Not fond of that cover, as I have said many times. When I say cover, I mean that design. I like the actual cover for this story, I think it's very nice. And there you have production credits on one side and the Legacy of Death, which I was on about, on the other side. And we have K9 there as well, so yeah, maybe he'll be taking an even bigger role in the next two parts of this story. We shall have to wait and see, or wait and listen, as the case may be. I will start off right now by saying I enjoyed this a lot. It has some very clever moments going on. It is, of course, about, let's start off with what the story is about, and then I'll get on to my in-depth, well, not too in-depth thoughts. We'll steer clear of spoilers here, but I will give some overall thoughts on different characters and whatnot, without revealing too much as to what's going on, because there are quite a few plot twists here, and there are also quite a few mysteries left around, which will probably be, well, hopefully they will be picked up in Legacy of Death. So the story is set on the planet Aoris, which is a planet at war with itself, and not in the traditional sense. It's a planet in a temporal war, so the past is battling the future and the future is battling the past. It's a very interesting concept right there by Jonathan Morris, and I think that instantly made me look forward to the story a lot, because it was something that I'd never heard before, and something I was very much looking forward to how they would portray that, how they would go about that. I was very intrigued by that aspect alone, and that made me look forward to this release a lot from the series, Series 5 as a whole. This was, well, this and Legacy of Death, obviously, because it's a two-part, well, four-part to release story. They were both highly interesting to me because of that basic premise, really. And the Doctor and Romana and K9 wind up on this planet and find this rather interesting war, and you can already see some of the pieces tying together here and there. You can see what's going on, and it's very interesting, and it's quite sort of like about ecology and whatnot as well, and sort of like it's a lot about what Doctor used to do during the Barry Letts era, really, and that parallels modern world things with what's going on in this story, and that a lot of the future's incentives are that the past has messed up the future for them, and that sort of like parallels to our world now, and that we are using up all these fossil fuels, ruining our planet and whatnot. And what if the past could look at this, and would they do something about it? Would they come back and fight us because of what we've done to the planet that is now theirs? And we've sort of like been told things like, you need to save the planet for your grandchildren and their grandchildren, our descendants and whatnot, and not be selfish with our resources. And this very much takes that idea and thinks, what if these people in the future actually do something about it? Even though it's not set on Earth, the parallel is definitely there. But it's not too drilled in this story, I will say that, and hopefully it remains rather subtle in Legacy of Death also, but it is definitely there. And out of the 3 releases so far, it is the least comedic. It does take itself very seriously on that sense, because it knows it's got a serious topic here, but that's not to say there's not a lot of fun to be had also. It does still keep that lighter tone, but it's definitely the heaviest of the stories that I have listened to so far, so that's interesting, I will say, in that respect. The 3 regulars are wonderful. I mean, Tom Baker, he's Tom Baker, need I say anything more? Lala Ward is really good in this story. She has some very interesting moments, and Romana gets to be quite clever at times in outwitting an enemy. That was very interesting. And then K9 as well, there's something very intriguing going on with K9 here, and I will say no more about that, but I will say that they do sort of like use the fact that because he is a machine, he doesn't necessarily have to time travel in the machines or anything like that. He can just be left there for the 1,000 years, and that's very interesting in that respect. And it's nice that they do keep hopping between these 2 time periods at war. It's not sort of like one stuck at one end and one stuck at the other, and then them staying there for the whole story. By looks of things, they are swapping around quite a bit, getting to interact with these characters as they try to find each other in this temporal mess that is Aoris. And there's a line in the blurb for the next story, which is on, well, the blurb's put online on bigfinish.com, and it says the pieces of history locking into place, and you can sort of see elements of that in this story here as well, and I think that's a very interesting line right there, and I'm interested to see that explored more in Legacy of Death, obviously. And it's very cleverly written, and I hope it's not going to be like Before the Flood and Under the Lake, in that Under the Lake was a very well written first part. It seems to all be going well, and then time travel is sort of thrown in the second part and things get a bit clunky here. And there was one moment where I thought, oh, they're not going to do something a bit off here, are they? But thankfully they didn't, and that was quite relieving actually. and that they have definitely thought about their time travel here. Jonathan Morris has thought long and hard about this, obviously, or maybe some others involved as well. I think John Dorney is the script editor for this, so maybe he had a part to play in it also. But, you know, John Morris is the writer credited, so I'm just going to keep saying well done to him, even if, you know, things may not necessarily be his idea. But, you know, for the most part, it does look like it is, and it is very well written in those respects, and that things do seem very well thought out, and I hope it keeps up in the next part. And, you know, unlike Under the Lake and Before the Flood, this one is sort of like involving time travel right from the beginning, whereas Before the Flood sort of like chucked that in that story, whereas Under the Lake was slightly different. So they are sort of like keeping it much more consistent here by the looks of things. So that is very nice. Now for supporting cast, there's not much I can say about them because I don't want to get too in depth, but I will say they all give very strong performances. Highlights are Tom Chabden and Simon Rouse, who are both in the original TV series actually, and Tom Chabden worked with Tom Baker and Lala Ward, of course, in City of Death. He was the famous Duggan, and, you know, sadly he's not playing the same character here, but it does work here in that he plays a very interesting character who gets to spend quite a bit of time with Romana, and looks like he may be spending time with the Doctor in Legacy of Death instead. So he is quite interesting. Can't say too much about him, but I will say Tom Chabden gives a very good performance there, and hopefully keeps it up in the next part. Simon Rouse now, he was in Kinder, of course, and he does a very good job here. Although there is one scripting issue that I kind of have here. Maybe it'll be resolved in Legacy of Death, but I don't know, his character did seem a bit inconsistent going from part 1 of this story to part 2 of it. I'm not sure why, but he just starts singing an altogether different song when it comes to part 2. So that's a bit off, I will say. And, you know, hopefully, maybe on another listen, I'll sort of like find that I was wrong, but I don't know. For now, I do think that was a bit awkward, really, and it's hard to say too much about revealing what actually happens. But I will say there was something that did seem a bit inconsistent about his character there. But, you know, it didn't detract from my overall enjoyment of the story, really. And, you know, it is a romp. It has got sort of like a political agenda about it, but for the most part, it is an enjoyable romp and a very well thought through one as well. And hopefully this level of quality can be maintained for Legacy of Death in parts 3 and 4 of this story. It's hard to say what my exact rating will be, because obviously it is the first half of a full story, and also some parts of that second story, that second release, will affect my thoughts on this one. But, you know, I think I'm going to go with a 9 for now. That may change. You will find out whether it has or hasn't in the Legacy of Death review, and I will give my full thoughts in that review on both that release and the story as a whole, and that will be coming out next month, both the release and the review, hopefully. So now all that's left to say is thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Definitely go pick this one up, unless Legacy of Death turns out to be absolutely terrible, which I highly doubt it will. I think Jonathan Morris is on to a winner here with this one. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye everyone.
There's something in the time vortex.
TARDIS sensors detect another vessel approaching rapidly.
What?
Sensors indicate vessel is on a collision course.
Hello, my name's Romana.
And what are you doing in my ship?
This is some sort of military operation.
Of course. We're in a state of war.
With whom?
With the past.
I say, what an impressive control room.
This man is a time traveler, not of this planet.
I'm the Doctor. I'm only visiting, seeing the sights.
Everyone, get down! Get down! Return fire! There are too many of them, sir. They've got us pinned down.